Dear students, hope you are safe and healthy. My name is Mubassar Abbas and I am lecturer at Institute of Business Studies, Kohat University of Science and Technology. My area of specialization is Human Resource Management. This is a subject of Principles of Management with the code of BS 121. The chapter is third, video 1. It is about organizational culture and environment and related constraints. Okay, before going into the detail of the lesson, let me share with you two reference books that you can use as a reference. These books are easily available in the market and you can also download them from internet for free. The first book is Principles of Management and its Application. That is written by Ricky W. Griffin. You can download any edition of this. We have 10th edition and onward. The second book is Management by Stephen P. Robbins and Mary Coulter. So you can download any of this book and make it as a reference book. Both books are very readers friendly. Okay, in this chapter our learning objectives will be to differentiate between symbolic and omnipotent view of management. These are actually the two views about management. We gonna study what they are and how we can differentiate between them. We will also try to define and understand the organizational culture. We will also try to identify the 7 dimensions that make up the organizational culture and how these dimensions reflect the organization's personality. We also try to explain how culture can be strong or weak. So we will differentiate between a strong culture and a weak culture. Okay, in addition to this, we will also learn various ways in which the employees can learn culture, and we will also explain how culture constrains managers. We will also describe the various components of organization's specific and general environment. Like there are two types of environment, the specific environment and the general environment. So we will try to differentiate between them. We will also try to contrast certain and uncertain environment, like what are the certain environment conditions and what are the uncertain environmental conditions. So these are certain objectives we will try to achieve. Furthermore, we will also try to learn about identifying the various stakeholders with whom managers have to deal, like what are the different stakeholders in the organizations. We'll also try to clarify how managers manage the relationship with external stakeholders, like how to understand and manage the external stakeholders. So these are certain objectives that we will try to achieve in this chapter. Dear students, one of the most important questions that is asked in today's management is about how much difference does a manager make to the performance of the organization. The dominant view in management theory and society in general is that managers are directly responsible for the success or failure of the organization. We call such kind of perspective as omnipotent view of management. In contrast, others have argued that much of the organization's success or failure is due to the external forces that are not in the control of the managers. This perspective is called as symbolic view of management. let's look into these two views a bit more in detail. So the first one, omnipotent view of management. In earlier chapters, we stressed how important managers were to the organizations. Difference in the organization's performance are assumed to be due to the decisions and actions of its managers. Good managers anticipate change, exploit the opportunities, and correct poor performance, thus leading the organization. When profits are up, managers take the credit and are rewarded with different benefits like bonus, stock options, promotions, and things like that. When the profits are down, top managers are often fired from the organizations with the belief that new blood may bring some positive change in the organization. So this view states that managers are directly responsible for the success and failure of the organization. If the organization performs poorly, the manager will be held accountable. Similarly, when we talk about symbolic view of management, we say that the manager's ability to effect performance outcome is influenced and constrained by external factors. According to this view, it's unreasonable to expect managers to significantly affect an organization's performance because it is not totally in the control of the manager. Instead, performance is influenced by the factors which managers have little control on, such as you can say economy, customers, government policies, competitors' actions, industry conditions, security conditions, and sometimes the decisions that are made by previous manager. So you can say that there are multiple factors which are not actually in the control of the manager, but still they affect the decision and performance of the managers, such as economy. Like if we take the example of Pakistan's economy cannot be in the control of a manager in the organization. Similarly, when the policies of the government change, it will also influence the performance of the organization. But a manager cannot influence a government to change its policies. Similarly, the industry conditions, or you can say the security situation of any country, drastically affect the performance. But how can a manager improve a security situation? It is not possible for a manager to improve it. So we can say there are multiple factors which play significant role in the success and failure of the manager. We call this view as symbolic view of management. In this we says that managers must create meanings out of randomness, confusion, and ambiguity. So why it is called as symbolic view? Because it is believed that managers symbolizes the control and influence. How do they do that? They do it by developing plans, making decisions, engaging in other managerial activities. However, the actual part that managers play in the organization's success or failure is limited according to this view. So the question can be, what is actually the reality? So we can say that managers in the organizations are neither helpless nor powerful at all. So in reality, managers are neither helpless nor powerful at all. but their decisions and actions are constrained, like there are certain constraints under which they take any kind of decision. That means the manager's decisions are between the two extremes of omnipotent and symbolic. So what are actually the factors that influence the manager's decision? Actually there are many factors, but the most important are two: organizational culture and organizational environment. So whatever decision that a manager take will be keeping in view the culture of the organization and the environment of that organization. That means that a manager cannot take any decision, even if it is upon his or her own discretion, that is contrary to the culture of the organization, or that is contrary to the environment of the organization. So we can say that even if there are discretionary decisions that a manager take, it will be one way or other influenced by the culture of the organization and the environment of that organization. So now we will discuss about the organizational culture. Organizational culture has been described as the shared values, principles, traditions, and you can say way of doing things that influences the way organizational members act. In most of the organizations, these shared values, practices have evolved over time and determine to the large extent how they act or things are to be done around here. So our definition of the culture implies three things. First, culture is a perception. As we said, it's a common perception. It is not something that can be physically touched or seen, but employees perceive it on the basis of what they experience within the organization. Secondly, organizational cultures is descriptive. It is concerned with how managers perceive the culture and then describe it, not whether they like it or not. And then finally, even though individuals may have different backgrounds or work at different organizational levels, they tends to describe organizational culture in similar terms, that they shared aspects of culture. So we can say that culture is a common perception. Individuals describe organizational culture in similar term, and basically it's a descriptive term. Now there are many researchers that have done research on culture, and it suggests that there are 7 dimensions that can be used to describe the organizational culture. These dimensions, which we gonna discuss in the next slide, ranges from low to high, meaning it's not very typical of a culture. Low, or you can say when we say high, it means it is very typical of a culture. It actually describes organizations using these 7 dimensions, and it gives a composite picture of the organization. So we can say that it actually shapes the personality of the organization. when we say that a culture that can be described as a personality of the organization.